cameras most of the time. No one actually gave the opportunity to photographers to interview them and get to know their journey throughout. We were very lucky, and our first interview was with Ali Zarai. And this is the trailer, and you can watch the full documentary on YouTube. So let's play the trailer.
في اوقات الحاجات اللي بنشتغل عليها قلبنا كده بيبقى حاضر فيها فبنشيلها يعني ونفضل مكملين بيها يعني. وقت التصوير ببقى قريب قوي، ببقى جوه تقريبا اوض نوم ناس وحاجات كده، فالكاميرا هي حاجه كده بتخلي الناس تتكلم. اكبر المشاكل اعتقد انه حد يبقى عنده امل ان انا ممكن اساعده انه يبقى عنده بيت، وانا نفسي ما عنديش بيت. التقدير شويه بيجي لما بحس ان الناس اللي في البورتريه ما قتلتهمش باي شكل من الاشكال. الدوكيومنتري اللي انا بحاول اصوره هو اقوى مني، انا بس مجرد حد بلعب باشكال بسيطه قوي تقدر تخلي الصوره قويه بشكل ما.
ممكن سقف على علي زرعي هنا. علي من الكاركترز اللي انا لما قابلتهم ايه؟ لا بليز يا علي بس. علي من الارتستس، او حابب اقول he's more of a visionary. He knows where he's going and he's not going to reroute. هو عارف هو رايح فين، وانا مبسوط قوي 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 ان علي قبل ان هو يجي معانا الجونه فوتو ويك وعمل لنا الاكزيبيشن الرائع اللي بره الانتراكتيف اكزيبيشن. ف ثانك يو سو ماتش يا علي. وحابب اشكر برضو وسام وفيق وفرح من مع علي للبرفورمانس الهايل الاكزيبيشن الرائع الواضح. طيب it's about time to talk about how to turn your passion into business. Let's welcome on stage Rania Awida, which is she's the queen of content. Rania is going to moderate our talk, and then please Sima Diab on stage. طيب عشان نحاول على قد ما نقدر نخلي التوك دي engaging, I want you to all either to go on slido.com or scan the QR code. It's a medium for you to ask questions. For you هيبقى عندنا questions احنا نسألكم polls فحابينكم تبقوا engaged على السلايدو performance. يلا let's start.
I don't know what they're asking me. Very casual.
Hello everyone. التوك بتاعت النهارده exciting عشان هي بتجمع ما بين حد زي سيما اللي هو true artist، والا ما كانتش الناس دي موجوده هنا النهارده، وفي نفس الوقت هي حد ممكن تقول لك ازاي انت تقدر تحول الباشن ده لبزنس، واعتقد ان ده حاجه مهمه عشان كده الفلوس مهمه. فمتهيألي أول حاجة المفروض نتكلم فيها in comparison to other fields, what are some challenges in photography that are unique?
So I have this. First I want to say thank you to the Phlog team, who are so generous and so kind and have just been so much fun to hang out with, and to Buena Photo Week, who are, institutional people in Egypt on photography. Challenges so if people don't know, I'm an editorial photographer, so I work in documentary photography, photojournalism, and I now do some unit stills photography for TV. And so that's a little bit of my background. I don't have any work to show you because this talk isn't about my work. It's really about helping everybody understand that there is a business in photography. So the first one is the challenges. What, in comparison to other fields, I think the most important thing in comparison to other fields is photography takes a lot of courage. Courage from you as a photographer to be behind the camera, to command some space, to stay invisible while being very clear that you're there for photography. And it takes the kind of courage that means saying hello to somebody you don't know, sometimes going into their homes, sometimes following them on their worst days. And so it's challenging because it's an internal thing. You have to be up to that responsibility, to know that there are people who sometimes are having the worst day of their lives, and you're there taking pictures. So empathy, all of the real kind of human characteristics that make us intrinsically human, you have to bring every day. And that's not something that a lot of people do in their day-to-day jobs. So it takes a lot of energy to constantly be doing that over and over and over and over again. And then to know when to take a step back and fill up in your own humanity before going back again. So that's probably one of the biggest challenges, really.
But how do you actually like take a step back and be prepared من حاجة لحاجة؟ يعني لو دلوقتي انت بتقولي انه it can be انت ممكن تقابليهم في اهم يوم في حياتهم، في اوحش يوم في حياتهم، او في احلى يوم في حياتهم. Like how do you get prepared for that?
I don't know if anybody has ever prepared. يعني هو المشكلة في التصوير الفوتوغرافي اللي هو documentary أو اللي هو photojournalism. You don't really. It's not staged. There's nothing there that's staged. It's life. It's life happening in front of you. And a lot of us really like to say that we are like well prepared and have those tools, but we don't for a lot of the worst things. So being prepared is really just showing up as your genuine self, as your real self, and accepting that the person in front of you is doing the same. You know, taking a step back means knowing when you can no longer you can't push anymore, and you don't have that drive. You need to take that step back, and that comes with time. أنا أشوف مصورين لهجتي سورية، so أنا حقلب بين السوري والمصري. مصورين كتير ما بيكونوا عارفين اللاين. And that line is a difficult one to identify, but it comes with experience, and it comes with time, and it comes with good people around you. Documentary photographers are solo photographers. They're loners, and they don't have a team. They don't have the camera assistant. They don't have I mean, I have a really great gaffer now, just for my studio stuff. But I don't bring him with me when I'm, in another country photographing. But you really have to know yourself very well to know when you've reached a limit and you need to pull back.
Do you believe that you have to work for free when starting out as a photographer؟ لأن ده عموما دي حاجة مختلف عليها ناس كتير. في ناس كتير ممكن أقعد معاها ويقولوا لي أيوة إحنا ممكن نعمل حاجات، ممكن نتعاون، ممكن نعمل collaborations، ممكن حد يجي يقول لي يلا نعمل project ده for exposure، ممكن حد اسم كبير مثلا ممكن يقول حد كده لحد يبقى لسه relatively صغير أو لسه حد بيبتدي. Do you think that people should work for free at least في الفترة الأولانية من بداية
very controversial، لأنه أنا من الناس اللي بقول طبعا لا. طبعا لا. Not in any way. لأنه if you want to practice on your own time. Okay, and those pictures may be good enough to sell later on. But you're practicing, and I believe in practice. I believe in people putting in the hours, doing the work by themselves. They don't need to have a client for that. They don't need to go and search for a client for that. Anybody can do it any time with any camera all the time. Because photography is about seeing first. And if you don't know how to see, then you can't, you're not going to be convinced enough to sell me that image. It's that simple. And I'm not going to buy it. So I don't know anybody that would. A serious client at least. So I want, I would love for people to just practice photography. And then in the beginning, you're not going to have a massive day rate. You're not going to be able to negotiate the big project. But you will be able to say, look, I'm a working photographer and I want this job. I'll give you a 50% discount, but issue the invoice, make sure the invoice goes out, make sure you have your day rate there, and then remove the percentage that you want to remove to make it seem, at least, even if it's a symbolic amount. Inshallah, 50 جنيه. It doesn't make a difference. You got paid for work, and that's what's important. And then you build on that, and it's a slow process. Yani, the idea that somebody is going to suddenly be making, tens of thousands of dollars. I get paid in dollars. I know the last talk. Best Ashen, I work for foreign clients, and my work is mostly abroad. But that's why. But I take Egyptian pounds too. Anyway.
As a photographer, you invest in your gear.
Yeah.
So why not invest part of your, especially if you're starting off your career, part of your time to give? It doesn't have to be free work, but doing collaborations, just to have a footprint in the market.
Yeah, just issue the invoice. Do it. Do the collaborations. Issue the invoice. But for you to say that my work is intrinsically connected to a value, and then you don't actually put that value somewhere, then it doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't make financial sense in the long run, because you're already saying zero about my work, like literally $0. So put your invoice and say what your number is, and then take all the percentages off. But at least your client then, when they hire you, and they know, like, they're going to hire you again because they take you seriously enough to know that your work has value, and you build on that. And it's a slow process for people to take you seriously. It's a slow process for you to have the confidence in your work to be able to demand the rates that you think you deserve, and you go from there. But to just say from the beginning, I just want to do a collaborate. I do passion projects. Passion projects are like the thing that I want to do on the side. But if you ask me that I have like a paid job, and I'll get into this because I have criteria as to why I have a job or why I take these jobs. If I have a paid job that I want to be doing, then my passion project is put on the side. It just is, because it's not part of my schedule. I have to make time for it. I have to schedule it. But it's not part of like what is going to be paying my rent this month, next month, and the month after that. So yeah.
But I think that question on the screen will take us to your three
my criteria. Look at that. Look at you people.
Tara is just messing around with us.
Yeah. What does it say? In my long term. Okay. I think. What was the question? Can you read it?
In order, put in order the importance of which of the following criteria do you look for in a job.
So yeah, I actually have these three main criteria that I take, and this is, I started this pretty early on in my career. I didn't wait very long because I realized I'm one of those people that have a vision for myself, where I want to be in 5 years, and 10 years, and 20 years. Do I want to be, making bread on a beach somewhere, or do I want to continue to work and never retire? How do I see myself? And I think it's really important to know where you're going and why you're there and where you're going. And those things inform the types of jobs that I take and why I take those jobs. So it has to fit into three main criteria. Does it fulfill me on a personal or career path level? Like, is it going to feed some part of me that is going to make me better at what I do? That, I think, is one of my core values. Is it going to make me a better person, like a human being? Okay, forget career. Is this job going to make me a better human being? Is it going to teach me something that I don't already know, either about myself or other people? Does it fit into my long-term plan? Does it fit into my 5-year plan? Does it fit into my 10-year plan? If I go and I love food photography because I love food, but will I ever do a food photography job? Probably not, because That's not where I see myself. It's not where I see, even if it's a really good paying gig. The first thing I will do is pick up the phone to the client and say, I'm not a food photographer, but damn, you should call Yahya. You know, he's a fine photographer and he will do a great job for you. And I've often given jobs to other photographers because I think that they will do a better job than I will, or the opportunity will help them in some way. That it won't help me on a personal level, and it won't help me on my path in my career. And of course, the most important, material thing is this financially viable? Because I'm a freelancer, I do work with an agency, like a core agency. There are agents in London or New York that know me, but I'm a freelancer, and so the vast majority of my work is the hustle. And it's making sure that I'm constantly working on interesting projects, projects that people want to see, something that's different, something I want to see that's not out there already. But there are times in which the financial doesn't match the opportunity. So, I mean, an example that I gave, I think, in our conversations before was that recently I wanted to go to Ukraine in the very beginning, and I thought to myself, oh man, this is I do post-conflict. Most of my photography is post-conflict or social commentary or social documentary. And so I sat down with myself when I said, no, I need to know why I'm going. It's not just like, I'm going because I have this opportunity to go. I have to front the money for this job. I have to make sure I have a client that's going to buy the pictures, or it's not financially viable. So I started to calculate, I need a helmet for myself, a vest for myself, a helmet for my fixer, a translator. I don't know the language, I need a translator. They'll be with me full time. What's their day rate? I had to financially break that down, line by line by line by line by line. And in the end, I looked at it and I said, this isn't where I want to go in 10 years. This isn't where I want to be. This is not financially viable. And so even if it met my personal growth, even if it did not match 2 out of the 3 criteria. And I'm really strict about making sure that any job that I take matches 2 out of the 3 criteria. Even if that means it's a commercial job.
Did you ever reject a job that fits 2 of your criteria?
No.
No.
And I've also never said secret. Are we recording? I've also never said that I can't do something. If I've been asked to do something, I say I can do it. And then I study like hell. Yeah. I just study like hell. But I read a lot. I look at the photographers that I look up to. And I say, what are they producing that is interesting? What are they producing that's different? What are they producing that I'm not producing, or I can't produce, or an opportunity that I can't create? Like, where am I falling short? Am I meeting that level? Am I there? And so so actually no, I don't think I've ever said no to a job that fits 2 out of the 3 criteria. Those 3 criteria I stand by, and I think they're criteria for growth in any industry. And I don't believe in being safe or not taking chances. People who know me personally know I'm a very big risk taker. But now that I'm a mother, 14 years a mother, I take less risks. I take more calculated risks, but I still take those risks. I still think to myself, okay, I'm still willing to go to Ukraine. But I know I need a safety advisor. I know I need a fixer. I know I need to be with an agency or a publication or an outlet that will take care of me. I am not going to jump into the world blind. I'm going to try as much as possible to mitigate all risks. So yeah, no, I will take any job that meets 2 out of the 3 criteria. I take dollars.
And how do you rank the criteria?
It depends. It depends where I'm at. I mean, there are some months, some weeks, some years where I say money is more important. Some of them I say, I really wish I did more video. I've been doing video for 5 or 6 years. Nobody's really hiring me for video. So maybe personal growth would be the ones that I would accept more. Like, I'd be more willing to kind of take a pay cut a little bit, but to take the job that has the video component included. So it depends. It really depends on where I feel where. It's like anybody's natural priorities in life. I mean, some days your work is your priority, some days it's your kids, and some days it's your social life. I mean, every day it depends. So I'm really big on understanding where you're at, you know, where you're at, and trying to match that as close as possible.
I think next we have a question from the audience. Okay, so what goes into photography as a career other than being behind the camera? What do you need to learn and understand? Aspire to in terms of priority.
Oh man, this is going to be so cliche. Because I think the first thing that I think, I'm not a technical photographer, and I'm not a fan of gear. I've never liked gear. I don't like to talk about it that much. I don't care about gear. I will shoot with anything, like really anything. And I think the core of it really is telling stories. So for me, it's not really even about the camera. I think the whole reason why I went into photography was because I love stories. And I love movies, and I love like taking this like long journey somewhere. And I'm just a huge documentary buff, and I love that stuff. I think what goes into photography is really being human, and that the core of all stories is the human story. So if you're not really in touch with your own humanity, then it's really difficult to go out and want to hear somebody's story. You know, and you don't really want to, you know, when somebody's telling you, I remember there's this woman one time, I go off on tangents like a ton, so bear with me. But I had a really personal kind of devastating thing that happened where I lost everything that I owned. And this woman who I had been photographing for a while invited me to her house. She's a Syrian woman, and she invited me over. She knows that I like tabbouleh, I love tabbouleh, and I love homemade tabbouleh. So she invited me to her house. And she's used to me just listening to her. And I had just recently lost everything that I owned. I mean, everything that I owned. And I sat next to her, and she was, you know, passing me the tabbouleh. And she said, تعرفي سيما، تعرفي الإحساس وقت ما بيكون عندك بيت وبتخسري كل شيء؟ And I knew in that moment I had an option to say, yes, actually, that thing that happened. And I just said, no, tell me about it. And that changed a dynamic. I think not having an ego, not going in trying to prove something, that the person in front of me is my equal, is my fellow man, my woman, and they have a story just as valid, just as important, just as moving than anything that I could talk about. Which is why I don't like doing talks. Hey.
Happy to be here.
Thank you.
You do amazing portfolio reviews.
Thank you. I do one-on-ones. I'm good one-on-one. Yeah.
The other hand.
Yeah.
On a scale from 1 to 5, how much do your gear affect the quality of your work?
0. Absolutely 0. It depends, you know, like really. I recently bought a new camera on loan, by the way, because I don't believe in buying things like straight up. Because I've been having clients that require a particular technical thing that my cell phone can't do and my clunky old DSLR couldn't do. But basically, I've been using the same camera. I don't like buying electronics. And a digital camera isn't electronic, and I have to update that firmware, and it's annoying. So I just don't deal with it. I'm not really good at it, and I have to remind myself to be better. So 0, really, because I think a lot of my photography I try, and I hope I do successfully with my heart. So. Really gear is the most unimportant thing, unless somebody that you're shooting for says, by the way, we need that in 15 megapixel, you know, whatever, and then I go, oh, I gotta go rent this thing. So it depends. I mean, and I don't believe in buying your gear based on that first client that you get. I'll wait it out because you will lose the client, and then you're stuck with expensive gear that you don't need. So I waited until I had 2 solid paid jobs. I knew a 3rd was coming, a potential 4th somewhere in the future with this client that needs this particular technical thing. And so then I went and bought the camera after I had rented it twice. So I rented it twice, I made sure I understood it, I didn't want to change systems, I don't want to say what system I use because they will not sponsor me. So, seriously, man. Anyway.
Another audience question. Do you have a curated personal brand, or do you prefer to hide behind the work? Hide behind the work.
I try not to hide behind the work, but I want my work to speak for itself. I don't feel I need to explain what I do. If I do, if I have to explain it, really, I'm not really, I don't think in my type of photography that I'm doing a really good job. So I try to let the work speak for itself. What was the first part of the question?
Do you have a curated personal brand?
No, I have a curated public image.
Yeah.
Because I'm very aware of how I'm obviously as a photographer, I'm aware how people see and how they're being seen, and I really dislike social media, but I understand the importance of it, and once I discovered stories, I stopped posting, which is stupid. Like, I should probably do more of both. And I keep telling myself, man, if I could just hire a social media person, but I don't think that it matters in the long run. Like, I'm so old school. And I'm now blaming it on my age. But I think that when you do good work, it's timeless, and it doesn't really make a difference whether you've posted 10,000 times about it or not, or people. I hope people recognize the work for its value, but not because it got 2,000 likes. And I don't want to feed into that system of mindless viewing, mindless seeing, like just filling your eyes with stuff all the time. And I constantly go on these breaks, and to the detriment of a lot of my friends, because those breaks usually mean that I stop answering my phone, and I'm like, I don't have a job, I'm off the clock, you can't see me. So I don't hide behind the camera. I don't think the camera is there to hide. It's a tool, and I use it the best way I know how. But I'm not hiding behind it. Often, many times, I will put down the camera because somebody needs help, or somebody, and there's nobody else there that can help, and it's my human duty to help and not photograph that. So no, I definitely don't hide.
But the first part about curating your brand, برضو ده يعني
yeah, okay.
It's not through social media. Like, how would you?
Yeah, I mean, so my name is my business, right? But it's only my business in so much as where my reputation is as a photographer, and where my reputation is as a documentary photographer, or a photojournalist, or a unit stills photographer. So yeah, in that sense, I definitely have a brand, right? And that's important to keep clean in that way. I hope as a human being I live up to that, because that is, I think when you're not living the values that you say that people, that you want to be as a photographer, there's a mismatch somewhere. There's something that's just not right. I can't show up, in a village in Croatia and photograph there and not be my genuine self, the same self that you see here. It doesn't make sense. So I think my brand is my reputation as a photographer, absolutely. But it's not, curated means that you're only seeing the bits that look nice. And that's not true, because I'm very open about the mental health toll photography takes. I'm very open about the disparity between pay between men and women in photography. I'm very open about the opportunities that even to have a conversation as a woman in photography. And I say this publicly all the time. I was the only woman hired by Getty Images to go and photograph the Pope in Iraq. Why is that? Is there no other woman photographer? And people were like, why are you saying that? You have a place at the table. I'm like, because it would be nice if 50% of us had the place on the table, you know, and I don't know if I'm getting paid the same way that this person in front of me is getting paid. So there is a disparity there. I openly talk about the dark side of photography, and the dark side does include that there are pressures, social pressures, personal pressures, pressures from work, the sacrifices your family makes that when you have to leave for a month, and you know, or you buy a one-way ticket. So those are. So to say curated, I'm definitely not a curated brand. I'm unapologetically me all the time.
As a photographer, do you consider yourself a business owner?
Me or them? Me, absolutely. Are you guys asking? I hope you're saying yes. Good. Absolutely, you're a business owner. Even if you have no staff, even if you have nobody that works for you, even if you have no assistant. If you're not thinking of your business, if you're not thinking of photography as a business, then you know, by all means keep it as a hobby and love it, because photography is a beautiful, beautiful way to communicate. But man, I hope you think of it as a business, because you have bills to pay, and you have a roof over your head, and you have mouths to feed, and you want to stay in the game as long as possible. And I've known photographers who it's just unsustainable to stay in the game that long, because they don't get paid on time, they are not diligent with invoices, they don't do a check on how much I made this year versus last year, how many new clients am I actively going out and getting, how many people I talk to get inspired to do new work. All of that is feeding into your business, and if you're not thinking of it as a business, then you know, there's no point in taking money for it. You know, it's just enjoy the process, because it's a beautiful one.
And was that the reason behind moving from editorial photography to adding commercial photography to your portfolio?
Actually, adding unit stills photography in specific to my portfolio it matched 2 of the 3 criteria. So absolutely. Yeah. And I'll let you guess which ones. Financial is one of them. Definitely, commercial photography makes much more money than editorial photography. Definitely, and there's a lot more negotiating room, and I think people should use the tool of negotiation. That's part of having the courage to have these conversations with clients and knowing your worth. So yes, adding unit stills is definitely financially is part of it. I mean, I've been looking at my trajectory. I have very clear specifics about you know, when I first started, the very first time I've worked, until today, what invoices have gone out and what I've received. And I am probably one of the few photographers that don't have a single late invoice. So, and yeah, I don't get late. I don't get paid late. Nobody wants to mess with that.
How did you get there? Please.
I remember I had a magazine in Italy that I worked with, and Italy is just, there are a lot of photographers that said, just don't work for any Italian magazines, they're just absolutely horrible in paying. And I'm like, man, they haven't seen me. And so I got this job with an Italian magazine. I went and finished the shoot, and I have payment terms, and so they knew my payment terms. My payment terms for that particular invoice, I remember, was 30 working days. I think that's generous. I think that's really generous. Like, it's within a pay cycle, you know. 31 days I was on the phone. I mean, I write that stuff down. I'm like, that invoice went out, day 31, that money is not in my account. Who is accounts? Like, I Googled them, I looked them up, everybody's online, you will find a phone number somewhere. I called them pronto, and I'm like, money. And it was a long back and forth. It was a very long back and forth. And I will send emails. I've hired a lawyer in New York one time. Like, I'll do it. I'll go the extra mile because I did the work and I deserve to get paid. It's that simple.
طب بس don't you think انه ده مثلا ممكن ياخد من انا
طاقتي؟
انا
طبعاً.
ممكن ابقى drained من
طبعاً.
حاجه زي دي بس how do I deal with it without يعني
Therapy. No, I'm kidding.
can't afford it.
I know. Get a grant. Yes, of course it's draining, but I mean, I don't believe that good work and hard work comes easy. I don't believe that, you know, I think this is the downside of having this hashtag positive vibes, hashtag whatever. I mean, and like I said, I'm old school. I believe in hard work. I believe in sitting down, making a plan. I believe in the types of difficult conversations that you grow from. I believe in those things, and those are real values that I hold really dear. So I believe that if I'm not going to work hard, then I'm not going to get the result. And hard work means that it's going to hurt. It's going to be stressful. Amy's like going to put up a... yeah, it's hard and it's stressful and it's, you know, there's sleepless nights, but I believe in good things and I'm cynical, but I'm a positive person and I'm optimistic and I love people in life and so for me I'm like, it'll get better and I will work harder and it'll be fine. And I believe in taking time for yourself. And that is just as important. Like I remember one of the first conversations we had, I told you not to call me after 6 or 7. I'm strict about that. I won't pick up my phone. It's just not gonna happen. Unless you're sending me a meme and it's relatable, then I might respond. If you're calling me to say, Sima, where have you been? Let's go out, let's go have dinner. Maybe I'll respond, but if you're calling me and I know it's work, you're not going to get a response. And if it's Thursday at 5 p.m. and it's not urgent, I'm waiting until Sunday, and I'm taking my time to be with myself and with my kids and to enjoy life, because this is really like just a very short blip in the radar of the universe, and man, I want to make it nice. You know, and so I want to take time for myself. I want to take time for my family and the people that I love. So I'm not going to. I'm going to work hard, Sunday to Thursday, to make sure that I get the client on Monday morning. I'm going to study the patterns. I'm going to read. I'm going to look out what's out there, and I do that a lot. I mean, it's maybe a sick obsession, but I do that quite a bit, and then I take time for myself. Because I need it and I want it and I deserve it and yeah, why not? You know?
انا حاسه اللي جاي ده اصلا ليه علاقه باللي احنا كنا لسه بنتكلم فيه دلوقتي عشان حد ده actually برضه سؤال من الاودينس حد بيقول how do you deal with being overwhelmed لانه بس واضح انه لو انت لحد الخميس وعامله نفسك يعني but still اكيد at some point.
I'll talk I think in two different tones because you can be overwhelmed in photographic situations. I remember and I'll talk about that a little bit because I think that in my like, you know, quick Rolodex of experiences, I remember feeling very overwhelmed in a particular assignment I was working on. I was in Italy working on the migration route, and it was incredibly difficult as a Syrian to be as privileged as I am, to have another passport, to be standing in the train station in Milan with 50,000 Syrians who have all either come off boats and came to Sicily and everybody's just trying to push west. And I remember there was a moment where I stood there and I just went, and I remember feeling incredibly overwhelmed because I had a moment to take in the situation, and the situation was horrible. It was horrible, and a real mark on my privilege. And I'm very keenly aware of my privilege of foreign education, my privilege of having a foreign passport and being able to comfortably fly from Cairo to Milan to do this story. And a Syrian guy was standing there, and I was asking him when he arrived. And he said, I just arrived this morning. لسه واصل اليوم الصبح. فقلت له اجيت من وين؟ قال لي من ليبيا. I was like, الحمد لله على سلامتك. And then I saw like the slew of his family. قال لي انت حضرتك من وين؟ قلت له سورية. قال لي انت اجيتي من وين؟ قلت له من مصر. And then I realized he thought I came by boat. And I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to say it. He goes, هو ليه كان في مركب من مصر؟ قلت له لا أنا جيت على الطيارة. قال لي عندك لم شمل؟ And it just got worse. Like I just felt like there's no way I can get myself out. Like how do I then say that I came from on a plane? And so I said لا, and I just like paused and he said, عندك باسبورتين. And it was just this realization of being not just overwhelmed emotionally and overwhelmed with like the disparity. And I just stopped taking pictures of that moment. And we just had a human conversation. And I think dealing with being overwhelmed is, in a photographic context, you just have to stop. You have to stop and take a moment, realize how deeply profound things can be, and experience it. Because only then can you pull it together and continue. And I've had many of those types of experiences.
How did that impact your vision about editorial photography going further? And where is the line between ethics and photography?
It is everything.
Yes,
but
that's
it is everything in commercial work too. I mean, this is what's really important. I think being an ethical person, first of all, and knowing full well that my ethics aren't going to match everybody else's. Like everybody has a sliding scale.
Right.
But I think we have kind of core values as people. You know, we don't screw each other over. We don't. You know, I mean, there's just core values. You know, you try and give you be graceful. And God knows there have been times I have been less than graceful. To be honest. Thankfully, it's the pre-internet era. Anyway, but I think ethics in photography is everything. Knowing the angle in which you're shooting will either minimize or diminish somebody's humanity or empower them is important. Knowing that a 35 millimeter from up top on a child in a refugee camp is going to make him look a lot smaller than he is. It says something to the viewer. Understanding how somebody is going to look at this and see this is incredibly important. I think sometimes we don't really think that really these are tools in the end. And this tool, I can do good with it or I can do bad with it. And so ethics is cornerstone. And in the end, people want to run an ethical business. You know, I mean, I don't think anybody, if they knew how horrible, for instance, a company was dealing with their workers or a company was dealing with their clients, that they would, in all honesty, be put up to the choice and say, I will continue to do business with this company. So understanding that your core value and your ethics and what you stand up for, it dictates absolutely everything in your business as a photographer and your practice as a photographer. So ethics is absolutely everything.
تفتكري الethics دي ممكن تتغير؟ ولا انت بتبتدي اصلا بيها؟
يعني I don't understand what
يعني تفتكري انا ممكن مثلا ابقى داخله في دماغي انه انا عارفه انه ده يصح وعارفه انه ده ما يصحش وبعدين الشغلانه تعلمني حاجات تانية كانت ما تصحش انه يعني زي ما انت بتقولي دلوقتي الاكزامبل بتاع looking at a kid and making him look smaller او حاجه ده ممكن يبقى
There's something I would never do.
بس مش قصدي بس قصدي did you realize that من الاول ولا did you have to go through
But this is where studying comes in, you know, like I don't know if I ever heard of a musician that never heard a musical note before they decided to compose, or a director that ever shot a film without seeing a film before, whether they liked it or not. And a photographer has to study, has to see what is good and what is bad and make a choice, and understand what this image is saying. What is this image saying? How do I feel about it? I'm a huge fan of messages, like what you're, not like messages from the cosmos, but the message that you're putting out, and having something to say. I don't think I have to like it. I don't think I have to like your message, but I believe people have something to say. I think I can tell if somebody is a sloppy photographer or a careless photographer or a disrespectful photographer. I can tell, and I think that shows in the work. I think that shows in the longevity of the work, and I think it shows in what is timeless or classic or real. And there are many times where we go back and we say, "Oh, Robert Capa actually staged that." And do we feel different about Robert Capa because he staged the Spanish war shot? It's a very famous documentary photography image. And yeah, we do feel different about Robert Capa. People do study him and put him up on a pedestal. But when you are really studying an image and understanding what is happening here, then you can make these decisions, you can start to see it, and there's no shortcut to learning. You just have to take those steps to learning. Always.
What is the main...
I want to smoke this. We're a family.
What is the main sacrifice that you had to make to turn your photography into business?
Time. Yeah, time with my family. I think time. Time is a big sacrifice for anything, right? But there's no sacrifice without knowing that you're putting in the hours because you want something in the end. And I think that's a big letdown. I'm a huge advocate for failing hard and failing miserably, and then getting up and moving on. I failed, man, so much. And this is what I find so funny is we were having this conversation the other day. I was like, people see this body or volume of work that I've created, and I'm proud of the work that I've done. I don't think I'm anywhere near where I want to be, but it's nice to get some recognition. But there is the sense of time, and I think this is why I take my time. Like yesterday I took my 2 hours. Today I took my 4 hours in bed. Like I like my time for me, and I don't feel that's wasted. I try not to waste time. I mean, I'll play stupid, mindless games, on the toilet like everybody else, but I'm keenly aware of time. I don't feel like I made this joke the other day that like where I'm at is where the party's at, but I'm really clear like what that means because it has everything to do with time. That if I chose to be here, it's because I want to be here. This is the best use of my time right now. And the best use of my time, any other moment would be somewhere else, doing something else. So yeah, time is a major sacrifice, I think.
But for photographers who wants to pursue the career of photography, we talked about it before that if you want to pursue the career of photography, then just focus on photography. But some of the new talents, they have their day-to-day jobs, but they want to pursue photography. So
do it.
But they'll have to give it more and more time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just be more diligent, be more focused, schedule yourself. Like I wake up at 5:30 every morning. I have 2 hours every single day of filling my head and my eyes with inspiration. Whether it's reading a book that I've been reading, whether it's sitting and watching the trees on my balcony and thinking of like the sound it makes, whether it's finishing the TV show that I was watching because I really like that DOP. Really, man, honestly, there's some really good ones.
Recently.
I'm absolutely in love with Dander, who is a DOP for Euphoria, and I don't say like everybody should watch that show because it's not for everybody. But man, if you want to study light, that guy's a genius. So I will watch things, I will screenshot them, I will study them. 2 hours. I give myself 2 hours every day to do the thing that, not every day, because man, there are days that I don't care, you know? I'm just not interested in growth. Like, I mean, let's be real. Like, there's sometimes I'm just like, screw it. And when I'm on holiday, I never take pictures. Like, I just don't. I don't, like, my daughter's always like, oh, we take a picture now, Mom. And I'm like, whatever. But because I want to experience life, and that only makes me a better photographer. And so make the time. There is no, if it's something that you love, you will make the time for it. You're not going to call, you know, you're going to call the friend that you really want to see. So you're going to make the time for the thing you really want to do. Like, there's no real excuse beyond that. You know, I don't know of any excuse beyond that. You put in the work, you do the time, and there is no other magic pill. There's no... Look at that, have a cat. And so when I work, I'm incredibly structured. I know why I'm there, and I know why I'm doing the thing that I'm doing, and if there is absolutely no reason for me to be there, the better use of my time is doing something else. So I'm not one of those photographers that says, for instance, oh, something happened there, let's just all go and I'm not there was somebody that said one time, they're like, you're not going to do that thing? I'm like, I'm not a trigger monkey. Like, I'm not going to just go and shoot whatever I'm going to shoot. But if you're practicing, this is the only time where I say, like, it's different. Because if you're practicing, then anything that you're doing that thing is going to be good. Just practice. But that's different. You know why you're there. So purpose, and having a purpose in your message and in your photography is, and you know, in your life is important. Finding that purpose and really zeroing in on it.
يعني اتكلمنا فيه شوية بس يعني as a documentary photographer, do you get into the same arena that other creatives get into? Clients where كنت بتتكلمي على commercial work?
Yeah, but this is really like having like a creative block, and I'm like a 10-year-old kid in a candy store when it comes to like new briefs or new. I sit on it and then I just like freak out. Like, I'm just like, oh my God, somebody's paying me to do this again. This is great. And then I study. And then I get inspiration. And yeah, I get creative blocks for sure. I decided after I got COVID in January, this last January, that I was going to take time off to take care of my health. And I took 4 months, which man, that's the longest time I haven't picked up a camera. That was really rough. And I didn't pick up any camera. Like, even on my photo roll on my phone, I've got no pictures of those 4 months. Maybe my cat. I took a picture of my cat. Maybe my kids. I don't know. Not all the time. I have to ask consent now for them. It's like this weird thing. They're like, you didn't tell me you're going to take a picture. So anyway, so I took 4 months off, and Corona does this thing, and I hope nobody gets it, and if they had it, I hope they don't get it again. Because for me, Corona blocked something very crucial inside my brain function, which made it very much harder to stay focused on certain tasks for long periods of time. And so when I realized that was happening, I took time off. I said, I'm not going to have one of my clients, I'm not going to struggle for one of my clients when I can't get something out. And I think that would have been detrimental to my brand. So I didn't take work for 4 months. I didn't tell anybody that I was taking time off because I don't feel I need to explain myself ever. So I took 4 months off, and I retrained my brain to focus on certain things, to sit longer for certain things, to read more, and really kind of, I was worried about that. I was worried about not being able to pick it up again. And then there was one day in April, I just stood up and I said, I'm done. I go back to work. The brain fog is gone. And 2 days later, I got a gig. And it was miraculous. It was like this weird, like, karmic thing. It's like something karmic out there said, she's ready to work. Give her work. And I did. And so I was worried that first day that I was back on set, shooting unit stills. But because I had trained my brain, I read all the scripts, I study all the scripts, I understand what the director is trying to do. If I can have a conversation with the director or the DOP, I explain to them, I write a treatment. I'm incredibly diligent in keeping all my paperwork like pristine, that enough people have enough of my version of their story. And then I showed up on set with my camera and I went, brain, focus. But then it's like riding a bike, it just pops back in and you do it. And I know that first day I struggled a little bit. I struggled with even seeing for long periods of time, because anybody who works on a shoot, anybody who works on a TV show or a movie knows that you put in 16, 17-hour days on your feet. You're just standing on your feet. And if you're a photographer, man, in this region, they think photographers are like the lowest of the low on that set, and nobody cares about you. Man, they won't even give you an apple box if you're tired. They're just like, screw the photographer. And so having people skills and putting, having enough people skills to show the importance of your work, and the importance of your work for them, which is key, makes that process better, makes it easier. So I do have creative blocks, and it's just trying to keep the brain going.
I think we're almost done, so we have one more question. If there's a good question on Slido, pop it up. If not, an audience question.
Audience question. Read it.
Do you think social media has made it more difficult or easier for photographers to have opportunities to build their brands and businesses?
Yeah, but I'd be careful about what's superficial and what's real. I think this is really important. I think people who go for the likes, people who go for every yay, are not keen on the criticism that will only make them better. We don't get better by everybody saying you're great.
Yes, do you think they get misled?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of like bad stuff out there that people love. And that's like, the world is full of taste, right? I'm not, I don't know other than a curse word. I'm not pooping on that. But does their praise match your vision for yourself? And I think this is really what's key. Are you happy where you're at? If you're happy where you're at, then fine, great. Like, there's no amount of criticism that is going to match the ego. But I think if you have a vision for yourself that puts where you want to be at just one step further, then listen to the criticism, because and don't go for the likes, because the likes don't mean anything. It's an algorithm somebody's making money off of. You might be making money off of it, that's totally fine. But financial, whatever, it's important. But what's really key is, if you're an artist, if you're a creative, is to listen to the people who you trust to give you that honest opinion. That actually that last shoot you did was a little bit lazy. Like, you could have done better, Sima. And I have people that say that, I do have people in my life that say, man, that picture sucked. Like, that was really stupid. I was like, yeah, but people liked it. They're like, screw it, like, this sucks. And I trust their opinion. I professionally speaking, I trust where they're at, because and I trust that I know that I will understand why they're saying that. And it's an honest place. And so if you have 3, 4, 5 people that you can say, I have this idea, let's bounce this around a bit, and let's see what we come up with. And I mean, you made fun of one of my app ideas, which it's a great idea, but we're not going there. We're not going there.
All right.
So I think that's the best way to keep yourself in check, is to have honest people around you that you trust their professional opinion, and that you don't it's a nice ego boost to have a lot of likes, but I can't remember the last time I looked at a like. I mean, not that I don't care. I appreciate that people love and follow my work. I really appreciate it. But I don't listen to the people who are constantly complimenting me, because it's not good for me.
Yeah.
It's not good for me creatively.
Okay. Well, first of all, I would like to thank Sima for coming. We are very keen to add valuable knowledge to the team, because all of the speakers throughout the 3 days are really valuable. And I really want to thank Marwa and Photopia team for having us. It's been a pleasure, and you're doing a great job. And thank you. Thank you.
Good chance for me عشان ما جاليش فرصة يعني to thank you بجد فلوج وسيما. سيما طبعا she's a renowned photographer and she's been with us on the educational front for so many years. بس Phlog is our new he's a sponsor during Cairo Photo Week. بس he's a very special sponsor because he has offered so many engagement activities and lots of benefits for the crowd, and I really want to thank you for this. And It's a brilliant app, and I highly recommend. And I'm not sure لو كل الناس عارفة إيه Phlog so far, but I'm sure that you have seen their logo everywhere. But Phlog is a brilliant app, and it's worth. It's the first app that you can sell. أنت عملت intro في الأول صح؟ بس I highly recommend Phlog.